Hello, hello. Here we go. Hello, hello, and welcome to my first Let's Talk Paranormal Activity. Would anyone like to come up and join me on panel? Um, I've gotten a great response. Creepy. I've gotten a very positive response from a lot of people on YouTube that they are interested in orbs, paranormal activity. Love you too, honey. It's my BFF sis. Um, and for me, this all started when I went down to Florida to visit my friends. And well, actually, it happened prior to that because she had told me about her brother doing paranormal activity. And I'd been following him on Facebook, excuse me, for quite a while, a couple of months, anyways. And so when I went down to Florida and she did a video and showed me how to do it, that you just take your phone and put it on video and then hit the flash. And then as you scan it around the room, we were seeing all these orbs. Now we believe. Hi, Barberry. Um, Hey, Timeless Jewels by Deborah. Thank you all for coming in. Um, when you see the orbs, some of them I was told by Bob, the guy from East Bay Paranormal Investigators. Hey, Lizzie. Welcome all. Um, I was told that some of them were dust mites, and I thought they might be, but not the ones that were really big and moved real fast and were different shapes. Hey, Barbara Bustamante. Um, would anyone like to come up on panel with me and chat? Um, but when I actually came home and I videoed some from in my house, I realized that I had quite a few orbs that I wanted to investigate, and I got real inquisitive about it. So um, I posted. Um, Will you be investigating the Joliet prison next Saturday? They film Blues Brothers there. No, actually, I'm in Rhode Island, um, and they probably tonight are at the Bristol prison in Bristol, Rhode Island, and they go there every Wednesday, and they film people. Um, they film spirits, and they actually have the equipment. Um, they actually have the equipment that they hear voices, and when they came here, they recorded some of those voices. And um, in my videos that I have, there was one point where he was sitting down and he had the meter and the earphones so he could hear what they said, and he would reiterate to us what they were. Um, and it was very interesting for me because I was also filming and could see orbs going across the screen as well as Pauline snapping pictures. I have not. I've seen one picture orb um, on one of her pictures, but I was able to actually hear some of the voices that he captured. Um, hey, Amy. Oh, you're interested in paranormal as well. Um, I'm not fond of the Ouija board. Um, when I was a teen, I kind of got turned off and felt that it was a negative power, a negative energy, and I didn't want to go there. So I stopped doing that. But because of all this coming about to me and seeing orbs in my house, um, it's just enhanced my curiosity a lot. And talking with people in the YouTube community who have actually experienced paranormal behavior. Um, I actually experienced some paranormal behavior in one of the houses that I owned um, in Providence. And there were many a time when um, kids would be up, like say on the third floor, and come out crying out of the bathroom saying there's a man standing there when there wasn't. So I never said anything. But there were too many events that happened to validate that there was a spirit there, and there were times when I've actually seen them myself, and so did other people who lived in my house. It gave me a comforting feeling, which was good. The other night when we were in the basement and Bob said my brother's name, and at one point I turned towards the door and put my hand out. Now, Bob had earphones on and he had a blindfold on. And he said, I'm holding your hand. And I was like, oh my God. It blew me away. Hello, everyone. Amy Hoochie Diver and Doggy Dog and Stacy May. And let's see, who else did I miss? Wildflower. Hello, hello. Pamela, early. Would anyone want to come up on the panel with me and give their experiences, or I mean, I'm very much a Christian. I believe in God. I believe there are spirits out there. I always have, that that guide us. I often kid around and say, "Oh, he's in the other room. He's watching TV with the dog that we're dog sitting for." Um, I'll feel presences. I hear, and I kid about it. I hear voices. I'll be on my way out the door, and then something will tell me, "Oh, you forgot your keys, or you forgot your phone, or you go check the heat, or go do this," or and it to me that's just getting a voice from beyond telling me I need to do this and I need to do that, especially with my memory at my age. But um, um, yeah, I do believe that there are good and bad spirits. Luckily, I have had nothing but good spirits. Um, I'm going to paste the chat in the room if anybody wants to come up. And it's funny because in the video, Bob said, "Bitch." don't tell me what to do. And I said, I know who that is. That was my ex-husband who's deceased. Um, and, there were just other things where he mentioned my brother's name. And then when we listened to the video, the recording after, I heard him say, my brother's who's deceased, his wife who's still living, her name. You coming up, Deb? Hey, CDC, yes. Paranormal chat. I'm just so psyched about this whole thing. And okay. Like I said, I've never felt threatened in any way. I've never felt, other than the Ouija board, bad vibes. But Bob, when he's doing these investigations, all of a sudden he has to say, I gotta stop, because he gets chest pains. But what really freaked me was he was sitting there on the floor and something untied the double knot that was on his bandana around his head. And then something touched Pauline on the back of her head when we were in the basement. Hello, CDC. But yeah, they are coming back. They gave me permission to put the videos up. I have a recording from him. Yeah, spirits stay with us, and our Bible tells us that God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So there's spirits among us. Yeah. I'm a true believer. There's times when if I got touched, I'm like, touch me. But Steve and I were laying in bed last night and we heard something fall. We get up this morning and there was nothing that had moved. And it's like, okay, so what noise was that? But yeah, when I turned and Bob had said, I'm holding your hand. He didn't know my hand was out. And I would like to welcome to the panel Timeless Jewels by Deborah.
Hello, Carol. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so nice to have you up here with me.
Aw, yes. Yeah, I just got back from picking up some stuff and I was like, hey, right up my alley. I'm a paranormal investigator. So
that is awesome. Where do you do it?
I'm in Chicago and we've been doing it, me personally, out of my group since 1999. So wow. I've been doing it a long time.
And you have all the equipment?
I do. And actually, I was just going over recently, we just did a private home case where we have a little boy that's being troubled. So anytime there's kids involved, we go right away. So that was interesting. We're still going over equipment or over our evidence. So it's neat.
There's something going on there that...
There's definitely something going on there. Yep. Huh. Yes. So I'm going to hop on my computer real quick so I can see the chat. Let's see, because I don't know if let's see if I can see it through here. I don't want to lose you, so. Okay. Yeah, I'll hop on my computer, but Yeah, it's nuts. And
Yeah.
our team is the Illinois Paranormalists, and
Hmm.
we do home cases and businesses, and then we do fun items too, like the homes and businesses. We don't charge, of course. We never charge anybody. If they're having issues, we go and take care of them. Um, and
There's
we don't.
crossover paranormal.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah. And then like a couple weekends ago, we did a fun trip where we go and do one of those, like they're like a big pay to play kind of place. Like we go to Waverly Hills every few years, which is in Louisville, Kentucky. So we pay to go to those because they're always fun. We'll be going to Joliet Prison where they filmed the Blues Brothers. So we're going to prison. I'm going to prison. Yes, in 2 weeks.
Well, Bob was telling me when they go to the Bristol prison here in Rhode Island that they get this little girl called Sarah. And so I was very inquisitive and said, why would a little girl be in prison? And she said they were the people way back in the 18 and 19, early 1900s that they took care of the prisoners, and they lived like on the third floor. And
Yes,
they often roamed amongst the prisoners, um,
correct.
which was
Yeah,
very interesting.
right. Yeah, we went to Mansfield, Ohio prison where they did the Shawshank Redemption. And when you walk into the prison, we did that, gosh, 2 years ago in September, I think it was. When you walk into that prison, it's gothic, and you go in, and there's a family quarter where the
Yeah.
warden lived with his family, but you would be surprised how close to the prisoners these people lived. I was like, nowadays that would never fly. Back then it would never happen that way. So yeah, that prison was huge, and we only got through half of it, and we were there like 12 hours. So yeah, it's interesting.
It is. I've been watching Robin, who Wuha Robin in our chat told me about what is it, Daryl Spratt?
Hmm.
Um let's see. Uh Dalen Spratt?
Oh yes, yes, Dalen. Yes,
Yes. Yes. He's very interesting. I've been watching him.
the Ghost
Um
Brothers are fantastic.
is that who they are? The Ghost Brothers?
Yeah, there's
Or is it
three
somebody else?
guys.
Now this
Yeah.
is, I think this guy is um by himself, I think. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Hello,
Yeah.
old time gems and antiques, Melissa. I hope
Hey,
that
Melissa. I look
I
so
hope
yeah.
everybody
I
finds
just
this.
got home from running chores. I was supposed to be at physical therapy, but they had to cancel tonight. I was like, oh, what a shame.
Oh, what a shame! Come on
I know.
in. You find
I'm like,
me.
I'll talk paranormal instead.
Yeah, I find it very fascinating.
It is. It is. Yeah, I did an interview with Danny May not too long ago. We did a two-part because as I'm part of paranormal clergy, so what we do is we try to have at least one or two teams in every state of the U.S. And I cover Northern Illinois, and then we have a team that covers Southern Illinois. And then we
Uh-huh.
do like Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, whoever's close in our proximity of about a 6 hour drive. Um, and so a lot of times I'll get a call from Texas, and they'll be like, we can't find anybody. So what we do is we will hook them up with a team local to them. And then, like if I have a case here in Illinois and it's a really negative case and we have proof that it's negative, I work with my diocese here.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what I do. And that is an interesting story on its own. But so what we'll do is if they need a rabbi, I will find them a rabbi. if they need a Wiccan priestess because they're Wiccan, I will help them find a Wiccan priestess because I'm Catholic. I'm a Roman Catholic. So if I come into your house and I say prayers and you're, Jewish, my Catholic prayers, aren't going to mean squat. So, and plus I'm the person saying it. So you have to, we always tell our clients, you can say your prayer, here's a list of prayers, and I'll give them resources of prayers, who they can contact. If say they're Catholic, if they need a diocese close to them, I can hook them up with the appropriate people at the in the bishop's office, and it's just interesting. So
one of our friends in the chat, she
oh,
took this from one of
interesting.
my videos. Now I didn't see that wave, and someone else did too. But when I'm looking at it, it's like you can see through it,
Right.
so it's an orb.
Right. It can be, sometimes it can be movement too. So yeah, it's always so hard unless you're there. I have seen, oh gosh, I don't know if I could show it. If I can find it, I might be able to bring the camera up to my laptop.
Oh, wow.
Let me turn the volume. We're going to reverberate here. I was just getting you on here.
What's the freakiest thing that you've ever seen or felt?
Waverly Hills Sanatorium. There were 4 of us, and I think it was on my 5th trip there. I've been there 7 times. We were down by the morgue, and it was myself, a retired police officer, a paramedic, and an electrical engineer. And we were walking down the hallway, and we saw 4 shadow people coming our direction. And there's something that's called the creeper. So the creeper is said to get down like a dog, and it can go up on the ceiling. It can go climb on the walls sideways. So it started out as 4 humanoid. Humanoid shapes. 3 of them came running at us. The other one dropped to the ground, looked like a black dog, and charged us. And it disappeared, I would say, about 15 feet about from us. But we were so, like if somebody's throwing a ball at you, you're going to go like this. Well, it was running at us. So there were 2 people here and 2 people here, and we all went like this to let it pass. But it had disappeared before it got to us, but we didn't know it was going to disappear. So that was the freakiest. Yeah, that would be the freakiest.
Time to hit the bricks, Melissa.
Yeah, the freakiest that I've seen. I've heard things, but yeah. So it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like when we were at the Mansfield prison. I was in solitary confinement. I was so excited. I'm like, I'm going to solitary. And so I'm sitting in prison in solitary confinement, and I'm having a conversation with somebody that I didn't know I was having a conversation with. So, because I was recording and we didn't go back and listen to it until we took a break. And so we're sitting there, and I'm listening to it while we're in the break room, and I had asked some questions, and this guy was like sitting right next to me talking to me. And it was just like, wow, it was really cool. But yeah, it's crazy. Hi, Susie. We're talking paranormal. I know everyone always asks me if we're going to film our items and put them up on my YouTube channel. I don't. And like most of the time we're doing family stuff. So of course we would never, ever do that because it's a family in need. And we would never do that. But when we go on fun trips, we try to film if we can. And then we put that on our Facebook page. But eventually we'll get it up on our YouTube page.
Now, do you have with your group a website?
We do. It's I can type it in.
That
I
would
need my
be good if
glasses
you
back.
share.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Whoops. Oops. I can't type for some reason. Here we go.
Oh, we've got 16 in the room. Thank you all for coming. I'm excited. But yeah, if they came near me, I definitely want to make sure I had a diaper on.
Yeah. So if you Google searched us, we're the Illinois Paranormalist. So yeah. But we do have a Facebook page and we do live stream from there every once in a while. But we, a lot of the time you're doing stuff. So you don't think I should be filming besides what we're filming for evidence. So
Thank you, Susie.
yeah, Susie, good to see you.
Crossover, if you want to drop your link as well, feel free to do so. Or if you know any other links that people could get some information about paranormal
Right.
activity or orbs or spirits or however
God,
you.
there's so much. There is just so much out there. I know it's hard to quantify it. There are some great things, but you have to be careful when you're Googling.
Yeah.
It can take you down a rabbit hole. But yeah, we're the Illinois Paranormalists. So
I tried clicking on a voice box, a spirit box on my phone, and it didn't give me anything that validated anything of substance. So I deleted it.
right. Well, I think my bag is here. Let me grab it.
Yes, she said she's going to Joliet.
Yes, we will be in Joliet Prison not this Saturday, next Saturday. This Saturday, we're investigating a haunted library. So,
Ooh.
and everyone always says, why would a library be haunted? Books are very personal to people. And a lot of times books are donated. So, and plus people that work there love it. Every librarian I've ever known has a passion for it. And you go where your passion is. So, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I use something like this. This was my very first piece of equipment. And it's the ghost meter. I don't even know if they still sell this. But yeah, the ghost meter. And it just makes a noise when something EMF. And then
Now, for people who don't know, EMF is
electric. Hold on. Electromagnetic field. Sorry, my husband's an electrician, and it's like flaps my mind sometimes. But and then I use something like this, which is a full spectrum camera, and that sounds like Who's George Jetson, right? And so I film on here in full spectrum. So I do it from IR light to UV light. So the whole spectrum. We use lights like this that will have
yes,
all the spectrums there. And so I mount it one on this side, one on this side, and then I film. So yeah, I have film I still have to go through on here from the other investigations. So but yeah, we use a lot of different stuff. Laser grids. This will illuminate a laser on the wall or down a hallway. And then I personally like to try fun things. So we were at Villisca Axe Murder House, which is in Iowa. The family that lived there, plus their two nieces, were murdered. And this happened in 1912. I think it was June 10th, 1912. And why I remember that is because I was there on one of the anniversaries. So, and that's the only reason why I remember it, because I couldn't even tell you what I had for dinner last night. But I know when these poor kids were murdered. But yeah, that that house was Very peaceful feeling, but different. But there were the 4 kids that were killed that were part of the family and the 2 nieces. So we try, if you know you're going to go somewhere where there's kids, we tried playing Jenga, right? We sit down on the ground, we get to their level. Most of us are parents, so we sit there and we talk to them. And then I got out of the blue, every once in a while, I will try to find something different because you never know what a child might be inquisitive about. So I have these yes and no buttons. And so what I'm hoping one of these days is that someone will push it.
No, 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 no.
And I'll hear that in the middle of the night and I'll be like, yes. and then we have the
I've got one around here.
yeah, so if it's really dark and really quiet somewhere, then you hear that going off from, you'll be on the second level, you hear that going off, you're going to be like, yes. But, you got to think of if there are child spirits and if they're truly children, then, they want to play. So we bring jacks. We bring, I don't have it in here. It must be in my other bag. I have this ball. It's like a cat ball. As soon as they tap it, it lights up.
He had about 16 of them and he placed them around the house.
Yeah.
And when you move them, they light up.
Correct. So we use those a lot.
Yeah. And he had this box that had an antenna. And it had lights on it.
That's the REM pod.
When he went into the spare room, he was like, whoa, did you see that? And we were like, no. He said, because he's done it for so long, he feels them. And he said, walk right past them. Well,
right. Yeah, the REM pod is nice and big and it's red and it's got and then it turns from orange to yellow to red to blue. Yeah, they're great.
It went into the kitchen and all of a sudden on that REM pod, the lights lit up. And I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, we do everything. I will use my dowsing rods, and I love to use these. And what I did was, and I had to be careful, so I dipped them in glow in the dark paint, but you have to make sure that you're not throwing off the weight because it's a free form here, so it's not attached. And so when I hold them with 2 fingers, and this way it will rotate if it needs to. And so I charge them with a flashlight. And then when it's dark and we're in a dark room, you can see the tips. So if they cross, I can see it without having to have a flashlight because we like to do it in the dark. We don't like to have lanterns.
What does it mean when they cross?
It depends. Each person sets their intentions. And the way I test it is we have a well out here in our front yard. And so when I first got these, I had my husband and my 2 sons try it. My husband, it wouldn't work for him. My oldest son, it worked for. For me, they worked, and for my youngest, it didn't. But it depends. Like normally what I do is if I want a yes, I'll tell them to cross. And if I want a no, then I want them out like this. But we just try everything. You never know what's going to stick.
Lizzie says, is there anything else to let you know that there is a spirit is around other than an orb? I feel a cool breeze that comes from nowhere, and I also hear distant music. Could that be spirit?
Yes. We were at, if any of you guys watch Ghost Hunters, we were at the Rialto Square Theater in Joliet, Illinois. They were there, years and years ago. But we were there and we were holding we do ghost hunts for some of these buildings for them to make money. And it gets our name out there, but we do it so they can make a little extra money. And so we took a group and we were sitting in the theater. Everyone was out. It was just us and the people we took on the tour. And we heard calliope music, and it was weird because we didn't hear it at the time. And usually, if you hear something like that, you're going to say, I hear music. If I hear a motorcycle go by, we're recording, I'll be like, motorcycle. So that way, when I'm listening back on my headphones, I know that I knew there was a motorcycle going by, or somebody coughed, or somebody went and sniffled. So, yeah. So we caught calliope music. It was the weirdest thing. No one heard it at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this Bob says there's things that he hears that other people don't hear.
Yeah. I've had that before. I'm an empath, but not on purpose. I had a near-death experience twice, and after my near-death experience is when I started doing the paranormal investigating, and I also started at hospice as a volunteer, sitting with people as they're passing. So I've
Mhm.
always been drawn that way. But nursing homes are really hard for me. The ups and the downs, I can feel it when I'm there. Hospitals can be, a little rough too. But I get that feeling. Whereas we were on an investigation at a little museum, and I'm sitting on the floor and I'm crying, and everyone's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I have no idea." And I was happy. It was just tears were coming down my eyes. I had goosebumps, and it was the strangest thing. I have no clue why I was crying, but I knew it was not my feelings. So, yeah, crazy. It is. It's so unexplained. I love it. I'm going to move you guys here for a second. See if that'll work better. Ooh, okay. Make you guys dizzy. Let's take you on a ride. There we go. But yeah, it's definitely a calling. I love it. Yeah, we're going back to that one case where with the family. So we'll be going there. And their problems are like in the middle of the night is when they call it the witching hour,
Mhm.
It's like between midnight and 3 a.m. So we'll be there until at least 3 a.m. for sure.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not the only one that hears voices, right?
Every once in a while, you'll hear your name and you're like, nobody's home. It's like, but here, it doesn't surprise me. My mother-in-law and father-in-law both passed away in this house. And we
Oh,
bought it from the estate after. And so, yeah, every once in a while, I'll smell her perfume or will smell like my father-in-law was a drinker. So, when that alcohol smell is kind of permeating, you can, yeah.
mhm.
So I can smell it every once in a while, but, and everyone says, "Oh, do you try to talk to them?" No way. Because if they're at rest, why would I want to make them unrest? Right. So I never record in my own house or anything because if they want to come visit me, great, but I am not going to be responsible for opening that door and saying, come on, so it's fun. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you're lucky by you. You guys are older than us, your area. I love Rhode Island.
Oh, Rhode
Love it.
Island is very historic.
It
Yes.
is.
Yes.
It is.
And I was telling them on other channels, as a child, we had a cemetery just down the street, and I used to ride my bike through it.
Right.
And there was in the middle of it, there was you go down some stairs and there's a fountain, and then there's, more stairs and this
Not
like
that door.
prayer.
Right.
And I used to like pretend that I was on the stage and dance around and but I always had a comfort feeling. I never felt that anybody, but I used to love to read the gravestones. with the years. Okay.
Trying to train the hubby. Close that door, not the outside door. It's
Yeah,
80 degrees here today in Chicago. 82. So
it's
it's like,
75
woohoo.
here.
Yeah, and it's going to be 48 by Sunday. So, Chicago weather.
Can't win like New England weather. We always say, you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
Exactly, exactly.
Hi,
But yeah.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's strange when you hear something and you're like, what? It's like, did I imagine that? That's like the first time I ever saw a shadow person. It's in my rational brain. I was like, I did not see that. So I tried to say, okay, I blinked my eye. When you blink your eye real fast, you see your eyelashes. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I saw my eyelashes, or maybe I saw something out of the corner of my eye. But when you see it head on, you're just like, game over. Game over. You saw it. You can't unsee it.
Yep.
You just can't. And I can't make someone believe. Like my youngest will never believe, even though he's heard our dog that passed. It was funny. We were all sitting at the kitchen table, and our dog had passed away a few days earlier. And each kid would take the collar with all the tags on it and put it in their room with a picture. So the collar of Lady was up in my son's room. So we're all sitting in the kitchen, and we hear this tip tap on this walking toenails clipping our tile floor. And then we heard the jingle of her necklace, and I'm like, oh, Lady. And I'm like, wait, Lady. I'm like, that was her. We heard her and then never heard her again. But
She's still
my
here
my
with you.
youngest it was so funny because he's sitting there. I'm like, you heard it with all of us, and he acknowledged he heard it, but he won't believe it. So I'm like, fine.
Yeah. It's funny the different things that you sense.
Right.
Um, I believe that um, I believe that we all have some type of powers. Some of us don't know how to use them. Some of them don't even know that they have them.
Yeah.
But
It's,
yeah, I've always, hey, Willow.
yeah.
Um,
I was one of those. I when I was a teenager, like before I became like a full-blown teenager, my preteens, I had dreams. I knew someone was going to kill themselves. And from my high school or from my grade school, middle school, but I didn't know who, and it happened. And then not long after that, I had an uncle that passed, and I knew that he was going to be in a truck accident. He was an over the road trucker. And I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know when. And sure enough, it happened a few days later. And that freaked me out. As a preteen, your hormones are here, and, you can't say, hey, Ma, guess what? Your brother's going to die, right? That would freak them out. So I kept it to myself, and it freaked me out, and I blocked it, blocked it. And then until I had my son and I had my near death experience during my C-section, um, and then all of a sudden it was like something opened back up, and I started doing hospice as a vigil care volunteer, and then paranormal. So I don't know, but
I've done
yeah, it was
hospice
crazy.
before, and the night before my client passed away, I sensed her having breathing problems. So I called the nurse. She came in and said, no, she's okay, but let's order oxygen just in case. During the
Right,
night, she needed oxygen and she passed the next morning. And on my way to the house, there was a night nurse that was there from like 11 to 7, and I came in from 8 to whatever. And
right.
I'm on my way in and I'm saying, the other nurse is there. wait a minute. No, she goes home at 7 o'clock. I pulled in
Right,
and saw her car, and it was like,
right,
and it was like she was waiting for all of us to be there, and then she passed,
right, right.
and it was so
Yeah,
weird. And I used to talk to her about her death, and her
right,
sister-in-law was like, "You can't say that in front of her." And I said, "No, she needs to know that we
right,
know what she's going through,
right,
and
right.
not to be
Yes.
afraid."
There's a fantastic book. I cannot for the life of me remember who wrote it, but it's called oh no. Oh no, I can't think of it now. It's about hospice, and it's about nursing and talking to their soul. And oh my gosh, by Susan something. Oh, it's over there, I think. Let me see if I can Google it real quick. It is a fantastic book, and you'd be surprised how many times people ask, what's going on, and they're afraid to. They can't talk to their family. So let me see if I can find the name of that book. It is fantastic, hospice book, and I know it's something soul.
It's not water bugs and dragonflies.
No, no, it's I
I can't
think
get it
this is
now.
yeah. I think it is Reflections of a Seasoned Soul, True Stories. Oh no, that's a different one. Yeah, we had a whole bunch. Oh, here it is. Midwife for Souls, Spiritual Care for the Dying by Kathy Kalina. And that's the book that when I was going through my training, they recommended. And it's
Mhm.
fantastic. It's great because like I always wanted to be a nurse, but I had back surgery, so I never got to be a nurse. I went through nursing school, started it, but so being a volunteer was just fantastic. I loved it. So yeah, we all had to read that book, and it was Midwife for Souls by
I'm gonna
Kathy
write that
Kalina.
down.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that. I can share the Amazon thing here.
By
You see,
Kathy.
normally yep. Okay, here's the Amazon link. It's called Midwife for the Souls, and it's just a fantastic book. Yeah, I love it.
Spiritual Care for Dying.
Yes, yeah, it is really good. There's another book out there that's written by another nurse um, that speaks about her experiences in hospice as well. And they're beautiful. And
Mhm.
people freak out when I say that. When I say, when I'm sitting with someone and they're passing, it is the most humbling, beautiful time because you're there when they're doing their next transition. You weren't there when they came in, but they're going somewhere, right? Even if you don't believe they're going anywhere, it's the end of this journey and on to the next. And so it's so humbling to be able to sit. It's beautiful. And people just can't wrap their heads around it when I say it is a beautiful experience. Um,
It is.
but it is. It is. And only once did I ever feel a soul come out of a body. I mean, I have sat with so many people. I did pediatrics too. That was tough. I had 3 kids all in the same family. They all had the same disease. And so by the time she was pregnant with her 4th, they found out that it was genetic. So but that just tore me apart. Going to those 3 kids' funerals all within 2 years
Mm.
just tore me apart. And I was like, I can't do pediatrics anymore. I couldn't do it. I said, let's go back to people that have had their long life. So yeah, it was tough. But I love hospice. It's so humbling.
I worked in a hospital for 22 years, and
Mm,
the program that we had was Women's Health Initiative, and it was a postmenopausal study. And a lot
yeah.
of our participants in the study were passing away. So at one point, they had a hospice nurse come in and talk to us because at that time my father had died, another girl, her husband had died, and another girl, her father had died. So we're sitting there and she told us about the story of the dragonfly, the water bugs and the dragonflies by Doris Stickney.
Right.
And if you notice, everything with me is dragonflies. I got a dragonfly tattoo. They're everywhere. They've landed on
Right.
my hand. Um, to me, they're a loved one that has passed on, just as if some people think that red cardinals or red birds are the same.
Right.
Hello, Pangaj. I hate to I hate to tear up a name.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. My beautiful granddaughter, Sydney, had passed, and when Sydney was 13 months old when she passed, and my husband, it was so weird. My son was in Afghanistan when she was born, so he got home. He got to spend a couple weeks with her, and then after that, they found out that she had a rhabdoid tumor, which is terminal. Um, I think it's like 0.5% ever live with this because it's so deadly. And it grows with them when they're born, and it's usually too late. So when Sydney passed, it was height of COVID. So I couldn't, I was freaking out because I was like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I went and spent all summer there so that her parents could take her to Phoenix Children's Hospital and have her treatments. And I was with my oldest granddaughter. And then after she passed, everything I have, like my setup is purple. If you guys ever see my intro to my videos, it is a purple fairy, but at the end, it's all in honor of Sydney. And so at the end of my intro, there is a tree that has a heart and it says Bailey. And then there's a heart that says Dylan. And there's a bigger heart that says Sydney. Sydney's the one that passed. And what it is this fairy is pink for Bailey, purple for Sydney, and blue and green for her brother that she had never met. And so at the end of my intro to my sale, she comes down and kisses the little boy because, she hadn't met him. And so it's a love affair with my Sydney. So you will always see purple on my set. I have a Tinkerbell. Let's see if I moved her. Tinkerbell will always, she's made out of lepidolite. So she is always on my set somewhere. If you guys don't see her, she's still there. She's just might be somewhere. But yeah, and since she passed, I couldn't go back to hospice because when you lose someone in your family, you have to wait a year to go back to hospice. Yeah, which is good because they want you to fully grieve. Yes. And so I couldn't go back, and then it was still COVID. And then my husband he has dementia, so we found out because we were all home during COVID time. That's how we figured it out. So I can't go and do it again as a hospice volunteer. And it breaks my heart because I love it. It's my first love. But, I can't leave him for that long. So, yeah, it's kind of, I would love to go back as a volunteer, but this time it's just no. You never know where things will take you, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's crazy. But,
would anyone else like to come up and tell us their stories?
We could talk all day.
I'm in awe of all of this.
And it's cool, but it's so funny because people see ghost hunters and they're like, wow, that show is so cool. They catch so much stuff. And I'm like, yeah, they're also there for a week. They have 5,000 cameras, a whole bunch of people to watch the cameras. Normally, like when we help a family, we're only there one night because, you know, it's parents are, you know, they're not going to leave their house for a week because, you know, we're just a small team. But, you know, if we can go back. We had a team or a family that we've been helping for 6 months because, you know, they've got to work the next day and they can't afford to go and, you know, move to a hotel for a week. So, you know, we'll go back and try to help. But we always leave some kind of, if you need, I always tell them journal. If your child is having an issue, please write it down what time it happened. If it happened on a certain day, what were your feelings, you know, especially with teenagers? Was it a high anxiety kind of thing? Write that down and see if you're getting a pattern because we're trying to find out, is there something triggering the activity? Is the person triggering the activity? Or is it like residual where it's just going to happen? You know, like at 6 o'clock every day, the door opens and you hear that sound and you hear footsteps, but then it disappears, but it happens every day. That's residual. So, you know, or is it intelligent? Is it something that is here and is communicating? So, yeah. Hi,
Hello.
Clarissa. How you doing?
We welcome Willow Owls here.
Hi, Willow. Good to see
Hello.
you.
Looking a little rough, but I'll wave.
Me too. I was out running errands and sitting outside in 80-degree weather, and I was like, screw it, I'm coming on.
I've talked
Well,
to length with Willow about her life, and that's very interesting.
yeah, I was born gifted. Um, I have seen aura since the day I was born. With I don't need third eye; it's just there.
Right.
But you know, it of course emphasizes it. Um, I'm an animal communicator. Um, that's my strongest, aside from aura. I can do mediumship, but I'm not that. You know, I do better reading an aura. Um, I can read inanimate objects. You know, that kind of thing. The energies attached to inanimate objects. But um, my mom was an animal communicator. Um, that was her only gift that we know of. But she she was like me. You could step out of a vehicle. I mean, even as a little girl. Hey, Susie. Hi, Brenda. Um, and just be, you know, wandering across the street with dad, you know, gonna go, he's going to the hardware store or whatever. And well, I'm gonna go sit, you know, by this tree and just enjoy the breeze. And he'd come back out of the store a few minutes later and like every critter in the neighborhood was around mom. Um, and if he tried to approach, they guarded her. So he would have to stay back and say, "Come on, Carolyn." That was my mom's name. It's time to go. And get her out of the critter cluster.
Yeah.
And there would still be some that would follow her and try to get in the vehicle with her and all of that.
Well, you've had
She
some
was
clairvoyant, if I'm not mistaken, right, Willow?
some not my strongest gift by any means.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Here's Robin.
but mom was even a stronger animal communicator than me. But that was her only gift. So it was very honed. I have several different things, so it's spread out a little more. So my gift isn't as strong as hers. I've had incredible moments with mine. She's had mind-blowing moments with hers. Um, of course, she's back home across the veil, so she took it with her. But yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm a good rescue foster, and I have minimal deaths in spite of risk, is because I can understand them, and I can see their aura and see where they're hurting and what's wrong, and get it treated right away before it gets a hold of them, So
Now,
but,
Willow, you're in. Remind me what state you're in.
Kansas.
Kansas, and that's not far from, too far from you, is it, Deborah?
No, I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago, so not that far. Yeah, not that far. That's for sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about with the animals being attracted, but like my gift was always that besides being kind of empathic, and I don't embrace it, it just happens.
Yeah,
I don't try.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I was younger, and still to this day, even when I was in my mid-teens and 20s, older people love me. And it doesn't matter where we would go. They gravitate to me. They talk to me. And it's just so funny because my son would sit there and he's like, oh my gosh, Mom, why are all these old people talking to you? And he would always say it. And it was so funny because I never noticed it. But yeah, I've like always attracted people older. And it was just the funniest thing. So, and I didn't even realize it. It was like, I guess I do.
That's
I've often always said that you have to listen to the older people. They're the ones that have lived their lives. You may think that they're jibber jabbering on, but you really need to listen to them.
Right. Yeah. I always felt like I was born in the wrong time. And I've said that my whole life. I'm like, man, I need to be born in the 1200s or, when dragons were here, if dragons were here, right? We don't know. They could have been dinosaurs, but I love the fairy fantasy kind of nature spirits. We could get on a whole conversation about elementals and nature spirits because yes, they do exist.
Good grief,
I have
girl!
seen them.
Talk about twinning. You're saying my life. Literally.
I know.
Willow, weren't
Isn't it
you
weird?
reincarnated?
I'm sorry?
Willow, were you reincarnated?
I have, in regards to past life study, I have exceeded 40 lives. I gave up on study at about 46, 48, somewhere in there. Needed a break and pretty much made peace at that point and didn't go back to study. Back meaning across the veil to the Hall of Records. I've lived a lot of lives.
Yeah. It's
soul.
so weird. Right. When I was in Rome, I went, a friend of mine became an archbishop and I went to the Pallium Mass in Rome at St. Peter's Basilica. And I had a hard time in that city because I was one of those people that was constantly touching stuff and they're like, don't touch anything. And I'm like absorbing everything I could. In the museums, of course, you can't touch, but everywhere I was, I'd rub my back against the wall at St. Peter's Basilica.
You can't touch with your physical hands.
Exactly. And it was like,
that's when you buy locate and you use your astral hands. And then they don't know.
True. There's a great book. Michelle Bellinger wrote a book on astral traveling and going into other dream walking. I think it's called Dream Walking by Michelle Bellinger. It's a fantastic book. She's a fantastic lady. She's out of Ohio.
Yeah, I don't dream walk. I don't care for that.
I've done it once in my life.
That's how I get across the veil to study. I go to my garden. A guy escorts me.
See, isn't that funny? I have a garden too. That is
Yep.
so weird. Mine's on a hill and there's a stream that runs through it. So yeah. Wow. She's my soul sister.
We've probably studied some of the same research to learn
Right.
our gifts
Right.
and hone them.
Well,
Exactly.
that's like I said. Some of us have powers and we don't know how to use them, and others have studied and learned how to use them for
Hmm.
the betterment of their lives and others.
Hmm.
For
I've
Yeah.
sure.
often felt that.
Right.
Yeah. But I go into
Yep.
Walmart, I go into a fast food joint, anywhere, and there's always somebody coming up to me. If I'm in Walmart, yeah, there's always somebody coming to me. Do I know where something is, or do you know what this is, or how this works, or whatever. And
Yes.
yeah, 90% of them are elderly.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's funny because I think I have that aura, and you probably have it too, where they can see your aura, they can sense your aura. Because yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's like a magnet.
Hmm.
It just never fails, no matter where I
Yeah.
go. And it was so funny for my teenage son to be like, "Oh my God, Mom, I can't believe it. You're talking to these people. You don't even know them." I'm like, "Yes, because someday I'll be like that too, and you better help them."
Yeah, I've done a lot of that. I worked in a rest home
Right.
as a nurse's aide before they ever had to be licensed,
Right.
um, like back in the 80s. I found that I had back issues then, um, and couldn't continue with that. So I
Right.
started doing in-home overnight sitting care.
Right.
They'd have a bell or
Respite. Respite.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mhm.
That's
and
what I did too.
I'd help them if they needed to get up at night. If they had a mess, if um, you know, to help them get around for bed, bathe if needed. Um, you know, I'd fix the
Yeah.
breakfast for them. And get them settled with that, and make sure they had their meds and everything. And if it needed to be done before the next person came in, kind of deal. Just whatever they
Right.
needed during my shift.
Yeah.
You know.
I did respite for kids with cerebral palsy right when I got out of high school. I went and worked at a camp up on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. And we worked with kids from the inner cities. We'd have burn victims. We had quadriplegic. We had this
Hmm.
one kid that just was the funniest person. I love this kid. I don't know whatever happened to him, but he had stumps for arms and stumps for legs. And this kid had the most beautiful soul, beautiful joy. I have never experienced joy like this. I mean, yeah, he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk. He could talk, but he would get down on the ground and roll. He would paint with his mouth, put a brush in his
Hmm.
mouth, and just pure joy coming out of this child.
Hmm.
And yeah, I loved it. That was the best experience, especially at that age, coming right out of high school, to do. And you sure do learn a lot, from these kids. So, but mine have always been respite with kids.
Yeah.
And like when I did
Mine was
hospice with
mine was all
pediatrics,
elderly, with the
right,
exception of I think one or two clients that was at the rest home that weren't elderly. And
right.
I also drove a cab here for a few years,
Mhm.
um, and worked with special needs, that required transport.
Right.
But a lot of elderly there as well. And then I moved into dispatch, um, and wasn't driving the cars anymore. And
Right.
a lot of them were like, "No," but
Yeah.
they would contact me. Dispatch would when I was driving. They'd be like, "You've got a cash call here, or you've got a senior requesting you," and I would take the senior.
Right.
I would make a fraction of the money, but I would take the senior.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah. It is. It's a calling. It just,
Yeah.
there's no other word for it.
Yeah. Well, the other drivers loved it because they got more cash calls that way, you know, because they just split them up between everybody else. So yeah, they were thrilled I was there. But you know, I didn't mind taking the taxi ticket, which was these coupons basically. It was a flat rate coupon kind of stuff. Um,
Right.
you know, one ticket would take you to where you were going, and if you had any stops along the way, it was a ticket for each stop. And I think they
Right.
were like $1.25 back then or
Hmm.
something. You know, so if they had to stop, you know, at a place or two, you know, total coming going across town, you know, might be $4 or $5, you know. That was in the 90s.
Right.
But I was also caring for my father then as well. So
Yeah, caretaking is tough. It's it's tough, man. I just hope I can do it as well as so many people before have done it. So it's just,
caregiving
it's
for
different
me
when it's your own
actually,
family too. Yeah.
yeah, caregiving for me actually started when I was 11, when
Wow.
my dad had his first heart attack. And the reason for that is my mom was legally deaf
Hmm.
and she could not, she read lips. She didn't sign anything, she just read lips. Um, a lot of the doctors at the VA were foreign and they moved their mouth differently. So she couldn't read their lips.
I bet.
So
Oh,
she let me know that I needed to listen and pay attention and then repeat it and let the doctor know that. So that's what I did.
Right.
And
Deborah,
so,
when
yeah,
you do your investigations, do you feel the spirits?
Sometimes. Some
Yeah.
sometimes you'll feel cold. And that's the most I feel when they come by. You can feel like a wisp of air, but it's cold. It's like they suck the energy out. You hear on the TV shows and other places that they drain your batteries. They do. That house we were
hmm
at 2 weeks ago drained two pieces of my equipment. Usually it's like one, but no, it sucked the life out of two pieces of my equipment. And then, yeah, you can feel the cold go by. I've got another story, but that one's a little bit different. That's more not PG that happened to me from a spirit. But yeah, that we can make that a show for another time, maybe
yeah,
later at
late
night.
night. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, but
yeah,
yeah, cold, yes. Usually, I've never
yeah,
felt hot. I feel cold.
yeah.
Yeah, and when
I
you're
feel
touched,
cold or
it's
I
cold.
feel, you
Vibration.
know, the crackling in the air where
Yeah, I get it in my left ear.
they're
Right,
pulling
How does he
the
know?
right.
energy, um,
Yeah,
you know, drawing energy. And
exactly.
if I if I hear or feel that crackle, um, yeah, I shield up and
Right,
I will eke out what I can share,
right.
you know.
Yeah, I get that in the left ear. I know when they're around, and I know if they're going to say something. I can like feel it before it happens.
Yeah,
So,
usually
yeah.
before a vocalization, I hear a buzz.
Right, exactly. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I get it in my left ear. And I always said, oh, it's tinnitus because I used to listen to really loud music. You know the difference between the buzzing of tinnitus and that. It's totally different.
I always
Yeah,
felt
this is
that if my ears ring, the good ear means they're talking good about me. The bad ear is that they're talking bad. So I usually bite my tongue if it's the left ear. It's like, go back to you now. You want to talk bad about me? Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I was
yeah,
reading Weehawk thing. Oh, go ahead.
I've also studied psychic defense pretty heavily.
Yeah.
If you're gifted and you use it and you don't shut it down or block it, um, you learn to shield
Right.
and you learn to shield. I have large quartz points buried on all four corners of this little lot that I have here that my mobile home is on,
Right.
that I use as corner focals to develop shields. And I
Right.
have very strong shields,
Nice.
very heavily layered, and anything of ill intent is not getting through.
That's right. Yeah,
Um,
she's my soul sister.
you know, they've tried.
Right.
They usually, run away, whining like a dog, Arrie, 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 arrie.
Yeah.
I've had people try to read me and they're saying, "You've got your blocks up. You're not letting me read you." Yeah,
I
because
let one, I let
Right.
one read me
I
because I
was
had read
thrown.
them and knew.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
most psychics don't even know I'm there because I'm so shielded up and I'm basically, cloaked like a Klingon. They can't even detect me.
Right.
Um,
Yes, I was kicked out of a medium session. Do you guys know who Lisa Williams is? She's from the UK. Short red hair. She lives in California. She had her own show on, gosh, TLC or something, or a show long time ago. She's a great psychic medium. And she was training people in the Chicagoland area, different psychics underneath her and mediums. So I went with my ex-daughter-in-law, and we're sitting in the room, and the guy was coming to read me, and she got up and she says, "Can you please leave the room? He can't read you. There's too many people around you." And so I was like, no problem. Most people would have been offended, but I knew exactly what she was talking about because
mhm.
of hospice. So I left the room and my daughter-in-law stayed in there. And then she came out and talked to me and she's like, "I'm so sorry I had to ask you to leave." She goes, "There are about 30 people around you." And he couldn't get a good read. And I said, "That's okay." I said, "I'm a hospice volunteer. I sit with people when they're passing." So I had no problem, but it was so funny to be kicked out of the room because I was just too many people around me. It was the
Mhm.
funniest thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to ask the people to stay out, leave them at the door
that's
if you're going to actually get read. Um,
it was funny.
but yeah, I've had a lot of weird experiences in life in regards to that.
Right.
Spirit, um, ghost, um, the, like the ether recorded impressions that just stay, and
Right.
repeat the exact same way over and over again, like a broken record.
Yes.
I can't think of the exact word right now, but my first experience with spirit was
Right.
as a very small child. Um, I mean, we're talking toddler,
Mm,
2, 3, 4. Um, I think I was about 2 first experience, maybe not quite 2, maybe 18 months, something like
right.
that. Um, I had a tummy ache and just didn't feel good. And a lady came to me, an older lady, sat on the edge of my bed, um, and rubbed my tummy and talked to
Mm,
me. And that happened throughout my entire childhood. This same lady, she would come to me. And in my late 20s, 28, my uncle passed, my dad's brother, and a beer flat of some photos was brought over and gifted to him um, from the estate by his daughter. And in that flat was a picture of a lady, a black and white picture. And I seen it and I was like, "Who is this?"
mm,
And Dad said, "It's your grandma. It's my mom." And I said, "The dress is navy blue with white flowers. The hat, handbag, and shoes are black." And he said, "How in the hell do you know that? It's a black and white picture." And I said, "Because I've seen her since I was little. She's
right.
come to me in that outfit and rubbed my tummy and talked to me when I didn't feel good."
wow.
And it floored him. He was raised Quaker, doesn't believe in spirit at all. He didn't even know who Jesus was. I had to teach him.
Huh.
But it kind of blew his mind. And he said, "Why didn't you ever tell anybody?" I said, "I did." And he said, "Well, you never told me." And I said, "Yeah, because you wouldn't believe." But I said, "Mom's known for years." But I didn't tell Mom till I was an adult. She was not transparent. She didn't fade in and out. She was as solid as anybody else.
Right.
You know, she knew how to draw her energy to sustain herself in the presence of a child. Yeah, I learned a lot from Grandma growing up, getting tummy rubs.
Right.
But that's where my gift to craft comes from, is from her. That's where my love and gift of music came from, was her. Aside from sewing, my sewing came from my maternal grandmother. But I never met any of my grandparents. All but one had passed before I was born. And he passed. He came over, I guess, about when I was about a week old, or they went to him, I'm not sure. And he held me once and passed less than a week later. But yet, I know my grandparents.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? That connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I've only communicated with my paternal grandmother in this life. But I know them.
Right.
And that's tied to the 40 plus past lives that I've had.
Yeah. The Akashic records.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so hard to explain to people. If you haven't experienced it, they're like, "What are you talking about?" It's like cutting cords. When I would sit with patients, I would always have my rosary in my pocket, and I would not physically be praying, but in my body, my aura, I was praying the rosary as I'm sitting there, helping them pass on to their next life and or journey. And always just sat there and just, you put out what you get, right? I've always believed in karma, and you put love and happiness and warm thoughts out there, it bounces back to you. And I always wanted to support my patients with that feeling, because normally I was only called if they had no family, or if they had family and the family couldn't get there in time. Because a lot of these times, it's so unexpected. I had someone that was non-communicative, didn't wake up for a long time. I mean, just slept. It was like a very light coma. And the day before he died, he got up out of his bed at the nursing home. And I was there when this happened. He got up, sat up, stood up, walked down, talked to some nurses, and everyone was freaking out. They're like, "What?" He came back to his bed. He passed the next day. It was just the oddest thing, but so cool. But yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, that brief moment of awareness where the health of the body has disconnected, but the spirit hasn't left yet.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's what walks the earth all the time.
Oh yes, I feel very comfortable in cemeteries. And people think that's really freaky too, but I do not. They don't scare me. They don't freak me out. And like when we go into a place and they're like, "Oh, that house is all full of demons," and And you go in there and you're like, don't put that out in the air because you're going to attract that. And plus, you got to remember that if I were to pass today, my spirit would be the same. I would be the same person. I can have fun in a paper bag. I'm one of those people that can just have fun by myself. You know, I don't need anything around me. Yeah. I can find something to do. My therapy is walking down to the nature preserve down here and just being in nature. And I do that every day now. But yeah, it's it's just you can't explain it to somebody. It's just
Take care, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Enjoy your dinner. Yeah. Yeah, you sound much like the tree hugger me in that regard.
Yeah, I love cemeteries.
I don't have a problem with cemeteries. I never have.
Right.
Dad would always want to go, you know, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And if I'm in a cemetery and there's spirit, they of course right up to me. And so he'd be wandering around looking for whatever, and I'd stop for a minute and be talking. And he'd be like, "Are you going to come help me find these people?" I'm like, "Yeah, just a minute." And then I would go over there, and he was like, "What were you doing?"
I'll be right back. I gotta let the dog out.
Okay.
She's telling me she's gonna go.
He couldn't understand.
Right. That is for sure. Yeah, there's a really beautiful cemetery in Louisville, and Colonel Sanders is buried there. And you walk through the cemetery, and it's up on a hill, and it has the most beautiful mausoleums. And you walk through there, and you would swear that Michelangelo made all the angels in that cemetery. They are huge. They are beautiful, and it's just like I don't know. You feel so tiny in there. But yeah, we spent all day there. We were there like from noon until about 7 p.m. and we were just walking around seeing, but it's just the most beautiful cemetery. And I was like, "Hey, Colonel Sanders, what's up?"
Yeah, I've never been to a big one. I've only been to the two we have here local.
Right.
Well, 3 actually. I'll take that back. There's the what I call the big one here in town. It's across town. It's on the way to Walmart. And it's in town. It's not, you know, on the parameters or whatever. Right. Then there's a Catholic cemetery, basically south and just a hair east of where I'm at now.
Right.
And then there's one southwest of town, about probably a good 25 minute drive. And that one is tied to my mom's kin. Her and any of her descendants could be buried there if they chose. Right. And it's a tiny one. Both of them are quite small, but that one's tiny. And across the road from it is her great grandparents, or maybe it was her grandparents, my great grandparents. I don't know. Been a while. And underneath is part of the tunnels that were used to free slaves. Part of the Underground Railroad.
Right.
And Dallin Scott did a video at a cemetery recently, and I typed in that would be great because there was a slave section. That would be great. He could go with his equipment and get the voices from the slaves. I would love to hear that.
Yeah, It would be interesting. I didn't have to go, though. They could be heard from the cemetery. even though
Right.
none of them were buried there or anything.
Right.
But yeah, there was activity there, you know, from the cemetery and from that house. Um, I don't know if that's on the haunted register. I don't know. I never looked.
Oh, girl.
I haven't been there in a long time.
Right.
But you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting. You know, I think it's cool that part of my heritage was trying to help stop that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah, we've been to a couple places here in Illinois, like Southern Illinois, that had Underground Railroad documented there, and then somewhere they believe was documented there, and it's amazing. It's just
yeah, this is Bodunk,
yeah,
Kansas.
right,
know.
right. Yeah, Bodunk, I love that. I used to be part of a team that was called the Boondocks Paranormal because they were really rural.
Yeah.
And I'm in a bigger town, but at the time it was rural here too. But now there's McMansions that surround us, and yeah. But we were called Boondock Paranormal way back when, because everyone lived in the boondocks. Oh man, yeah. Earlier you were talking about how you got the blessed items or your quartz in your corners. I do that as well. My ex-daughter-in-law was here. She was in the military with my son, and they moved back from London, and they were here. And she saw a shadow out in the backyard, and I saw it too. And that's not surprising me. Between hospice and paranormal investigating, every once in a while to see a spirit, it's nothing, and that's so
Yeah.
flippant, but you get used to it. And so after
You
that,
do.
it freaked her out so much that I have my St. Michael's and my St. Benedict's in each four corners blessed. And I'm really fortunate that I can go over to the Abbey and the monks will bless my salt. They will bless my holy water, and they will bless my any metals I need for investigations. They do it in Latin and English for me. And so it's nice to be able to have the clergy to fall back on, and my diocese if I need to, because we refer people. So yeah, and I salted and saged, and it was so funny because I was saging my yard, and this was before the green stuff was legal in our state. I'll just put it that way. And it was funny because I'm burning sage as I'm walking around, and we have about 3/4 of an acre, and I'm burning this. And my neighbor's like, and I just thought it was the funniest thing because sage can smell a little like that, and so it was funny. So I was saging my yard, and then I did the sweet grass, and that was even funnier. But yeah, it was humorous.
Yeah, I saged this property too, and mind you, it's in a trailer park.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely cloaked for that.
Right.
If they smelled anything, they didn't know where it was coming from because they didn't know I was there.
Right.
But,
oh yeah. And usually like when we go on an investigation, I will sage everybody if they want it. We always say like a prayer before we go into the house, and then or a building. And then when we come out, some people like to say their own, or I'll do a mass group one. And it's funny because people don't like to drive with me because I'm that person in our group and through paranormal clergy for our group in Illinois, where if someone was messing with the Ouija board and they want it out of the house, I am the one that blesses it and binds it, wraps it up in burlap, takes it and submerges it in water. So I'm that one. So people don't like to drive with me because they know that I have a Ouija board in my trunk of my car. They're like, I ain't driving with you. And I'm like, well, yes, I've already blessed it and bound it, and I'm gonna take care of it. And it's just funny. So yeah.
Nargle's in the trunk.
That's right. I know. Where's Waldo? In my trunk.
Too funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's an interesting life, like where I said I've seen aura my whole life.
Right.
I didn't know everybody else didn't,
Right. Right.
because that was not a gift Mom was familiar with.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it was interesting to find out that others didn't. Um, I think instinctively I kept it quiet, and then just one day I was just like, don't you see that? That's
Yeah.
like a huge wide aura. I mean, they're like projecting, and they're like,
That's like,
what?
yeah. The song Happy Shiny People, I swear, is written about auras. It's got to be. It's just that song has got to be written about auras.
Yeah, it's got to be written by an aura seer. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Well, most people have to open their third eye to see aura.
Correct.
They don't see it with the physical eye. I've seen it with physical eye.
Right.
I
Right.
have to turn it off.
Right. Yeah. Right. I use my Eye of Sauron too. Just kidding.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a Lord of the Rings freak. I can't help it.
I know, so am I.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Yeah.
That's right. I know. Isn't that funny? I know. It's just anything like that. It's like witches. What was I watching? Mayfair Witches. I'm like, oh yeah, I so could live in Louisiana. I could so do it.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I don't know. There's not very much paranormal fiction movie that I actually like.
Right.
I liked the TV series Charmed.
Yes.
The
original. The original.
Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, kind of Twilight.
Yeah.
And that's the end of my list.
Right. That's funny.
Oh, and Salem's Lot from back in the day, back in the 70s.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the only horror, or classified as horror, that I've ever cared for.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, if I'm reading paranormal, I prefer to read my paranormal.
Right.
Over watching, because my imagination's oftentimes better than what they come up with. Or they just, it's not even close to what I'm imagining. So.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I love Harry Potter. I can watch that. It's funny. I can watch any of that stuff over and over and over and over again. It's just.
Oh yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. Yeah, we do a podcast every once in a while for my Illinois Paranormalist group. And we did one on black-eyed children. And the response we got to that, so many people didn't realize that black-eyed children exist. Because it originally, like the Thin Man, that was like somebody, like a thought form that people believed it, so it existed. And so we did this big talk on the black-eyed kids, and people would just have like severe nightmares from it. They're like, you can't talk about that. It's like, people need to know this exists. It's just there's so much out there that we don't know, and that sometimes we don't want to know, but we, you know it. When you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A lot of people didn't believe in indigo children either, and that is kind of a new term,
right? And it's been around for so long.
Yeah.
Yep.
It has.
Right. Yeah. We're going to be doing an interview. A friend of mine is a bishop with the old Catholic Church, so they welcome everybody, and. She wrote a book. She is the person that when you go to take a test in college or in seminary, she's the one that wrote the questions. This is how intelligent she is. She is like, you have a talk with her and you're like, oh man, I should just shut up right now. Because she's I'm going to lose it. Yeah. And so she wrote a book it's called God and the Paranormal. and it is so fascinating. So we're going to be doing an interview with her, and I'm going to be recording it on my channel, and then I'll probably record it on my channel and then put it on our paranormal channel as well. But with a big warning, you know, because sometimes people don't want to hear that. But I want her book to get out there. It's so great.
Yeah, Bewitched.
Yeah, I
And
love
that goes back a
Bewitched.
few.
Yeah.
It was okay
Yeah.
for me. You know, I watched a few
Right.
episodes, but yeah. If I was gonna, you know, the second I get home from school, go kick the TV on. I wasn't watching Bewitched. I was watching Underdog. Just saying.
Right.
I would watch pretty much my whole life. I've watched some episodes of sitcoms.
Right.
Rarely do I actually sit down and watch a whole season of anything. Um,
Bewitched was fun, but to me, that wasn't witchcraft.
Right.
oh,
Right.
Lord, no.
Right.
No, that was a tart on a broom.
Right.
But some people love watching a tart on a broom. So, you know, it was
Right.
popular.
Right. Yeah, it's always so funny when you bring up witchcraft, because I, like, with my paranormal clergy, I have had people that are Wiccan, and there's different branches of Wiccan too. You know, there's people that are more doing white magic, and then there's the, you know, we don't talk
The
about
gray
it
line.
magic. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, you know, to have to go find a Wiccan priestess for them and stuff, and it's so out of my wheelhouse, you know.
Yeah.
I've always said I'm a Roman Catholic that loves Latin Mass, but I'm a little bit Buddhist, and I'm a little bit of this, and I'm a little bit of that, because I'm kind of like the whole coexist sticker that you see on a car. That's just like me. I am just there. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not Wiccan. Wiccan is a new term. I'm
Right.
old school pagan.
Right.
Wiccan to me is, you know, white fluffy clouds and everything's just dandy, and that isn't life.
Right.
Isn't.
Right.
So yeah, I do not classify as Wiccan at all.
Right.
I'm an eclectic, solitary, old school pagan.
Right.
I have studied so many different pantheons. I am, by definition, a white witch.
Right.
AKA, just like in life, I won't start the fight, but I will finish it. I have studied some dark magic so that I know what to look for.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the only reason was psychic defense.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't call on anything.
Right.
I don't. I do not call into a circle anything.
Right. Exactly. You know, yeah.
I will activate the elementals outside the circle to guard the circle.
Correct.
But nothing is in there with me except my familiar.
Right. Right.
So
yes. And it's so, you know, like, I always tell people,
I'm here in the physical or if I'm doing it in my garden in the astral plane, which is where I do a lot of my magic.
Right. Right.
My physical limitations. I can't dance skyclad.
Right.
You know, just my body won't do that.
Right.
But if I astral project, I can. So.
Right. Oh yeah, it's so fascinating, the different levels and different branches of everything. Because we work with shamans as well. A friend of mine went to Tibet, and wow, the experiences she had. And you know, we excuse me, we work with elders from the different tribes, and it's just so amazing. You know, it's like, to some people there is you shouldn't be dabbling in that. And it's not that you're dabbling, it's you're knowing. Because when we are like, when I go to an investigation, and there's a lot of places in Illinois that have a Native American background around the rivers, there's burial mounds.
Yeah.
For me to be responsible for what I do, I need to know how to interact, how to be respectful,
Hmm.
and not to cross a line, So
Yeah.
it's so cool to
How
be
to
able
honor
to,
the
exactly,
and
like
respect
runes.
the
Right,
whatever
right. I've
pantheon
tried,
that it is that you are working with.
exactly. And I'm always trying to learn my runes, and, just everything I can absorb, I do. I started trying to learn the Lakota language. It's difficult,
Hmm.
but we do every once in a while have some interaction with Lakota. And
Hmm.
so it's amazing. So there's nothing like being able to communicate. And then they were like, hey, she's talking to
Yeah.
me in my language.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Any direct communications that I have had with any official of any pantheon has
Right.
been done in spirit across the veil. The resources just aren't here
Right.
in my physical space, my world here, aka
Right.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Um, I can't travel. Um, I couldn't travel when I was younger because I was caregiving. Um, you know, so yeah, I have my guide who always goes over with. Her name is Lucita, and she's a chubby little short Italian gal. I inherited my mom's guide when she passed, and he is a Native American chief.
Right.
Um, and I have several. From what I understand, it's not been officiated with ancestry, DNA, or anything like that. Is that I'm English, Irish, Dutch, Dane, Cherokee, and Apache.
Right.
So, um, so yeah, I have a short little Italian gal over my right shoulder, and I have Mr. Breechcloth over here on my left.
Right.
That I inherited. From what I understand, that doesn't happen very often. But mom, being legally deaf, didn't communicate with her spirit guide well. Even on the psychic realm, she wasn't gifted as such to where she could hear him.
Right.
So I ended up being a mouthpiece for him to her when it was needed. And apparently he decided to stick around. I've asked, he hasn't told, so it's not something for me to know in my life. Why he's decided to hang out, but he has. So yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like, we'll do an investigation, and every time, and I know better, I will ask the question, is there a God? And you're not going to get that answer, but I'm waiting for somebody one of these days to go, yes. Or, I'm waiting for that secret answer that will never come. I know there's an
Mm-hmm.
unspoken word or thing with the other side,
Oh,
and
I can
every once
tell
in a
when
while it's like,
he's heavy in
yeah,
discussion. I
yeah,
can't hear it with Lucida, but I can hear it with
right,
him. If he's in heavy discussion, aka telepathic communication, with somebody that isn't me, yeah,
right,
my left ear's buzzing.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm like, quit talking about me, dude. He just shakes his
Oh, I
head and
know.
smirks.
Yes, that's right. I always try to ask a question. It's like, come on, man. The one question I always ask, and if you guys have ever seen the movie The Others, this is how I believe, at least, and how I practice being a paranormal investigator is. Sometimes we get a glimpse of a spirit. We sometimes can hear them. We can sometimes feel them. But to them, are we the ones that are spirit? Are we the ones that are dead? Are we spirit? And they're seeing us or partially hearing us. And I always wonder that veil, if they're thinking we're the ghosts and we're thinking they're the ghost, is it just two veils going at the same time? And we always like to
two
think
parallel existence, and I can answer
exactly.
that question for you.
Yeah, because we always
Yes.
ask the question, can you see us or can you hear us? And every
Not
once in a
always.
while, it's like yes or no. And they will
Not
tell you
always.
if they can see you.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
It's
that's why
amazing.
it is two parallel existence. They run in parallel with each other, but aren't always seen by the other, aren't always
Correct.
heard by the other. It depends on where them as a being, their mindset is.
Right.
If they're focusing on this over here, they're not going to hear that over there. Or if they do, it's just going to be a brief flash and they'll shake their head like, oh, I don't know what that was, but whatever kind of
Right.
thing. Yes, it is very much.
Yeah, but don't they see
the
us and we not see them?
No, it's about the same. They
Huh.
sometimes see us. We sometimes see them.
Yes.
More often than not, no, we don't.
Yep.
Same with hearing. Because it is two separate existences that are running parallel.
Exactly. And a lot of times when we get EVPs, it sounds like it's underwater. What you would think of if somebody's talking to you underwater, you can hear them, but
You
you
know what
can't
that
make
is?
it out. Yes, and it's
That is the
exactly how I
veil. That is the ripple of
exactly
the veil that you are hearing. It
exactly.
is
And we
literally
always
like a
tell
curtain
everyone,
whipping in the wind.
right? We always tell the clients, they're like, "Wow, I can hear that, but it sounds like they're underwater." And we're like, "Yes, it's just that's how it is sometimes." But sometimes we'll get like when we were at the prison, when we were at Mansfield prison, the guy sounded like he was right next to me. You'd swear he
Mm-hmm.
was sitting right here having conversation like we are.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the coolest thing. Everyone's like, "Wow, you were talking to a prisoner." I'm like, "I know, it was awesome," but it was
Yeah.
fun.
Do you
But
have to download a certain program onto your laptop so that you can
no,
connect it with? No?
no, there is software like Audacity or Adobe Audition. There's other ones out there, kind of like if you do a YouTube video and you're going to go edit it
Yep.
and put sound in it or whatever, what you're doing is you're just clipping out sound frames,
Yep.
but you don't ever want to push up there's different sound settings that you can do. You don't want to mess with your stuff because then people are like, you faked it. And it's like, no, because you want to be able to hear it clear. But if you can't hear it clear, we don't count it as an EVP unless
Yeah.
we know what they're saying and I don't have to say to you, Carol, it says your name.
You
So
basically
when we
use the program default so that it is unaltered if you need to
exactly.
prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we go to clients' houses, we'll give them a pair of headphones. We don't tell them what we think it says. And we let them tell us what they think it says. Because if I tell you it's saying Carol, then I give you headphones and you hear it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, they're saying Carol. It may not be Carol.
Yeah.
They might be saying something else, but it sounds like Carol. So, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
don't
why
want to imprint on them any information.
Right.
when
Just
he
like when
Exactly.
played
a
it
medium
back,
goes in on a psychic reading, they don't want any information. They want to run blind
I
Right.
because they
listened
don't
to
want any
it
imprint.
and
Yeah.
I swore he said Kathy, and that was my brother's. It is my brother's wife's name,
Right.
and it's to me, it sounded like his voice. Now another time, I heard another voice, and it sounded like my uncle Pat, and
Mm.
he said Noel,
Right.
and his wife, that's also deceased, her middle name was Noel. So I mean,
Right.
Bob didn't know all of this stuff when he did the
Yes.
recording.
Right.
I was able to validate and interpret it into
Yeah.
what my life
Right. Yeah, we were at Waverly Hills Sanatorium, which was a tuberculosis hospital. It's on the outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky. My favorite place by far. And we were taking us at that time I was a smoker. We were out smoking, taking a break. And there's three of us, and I'm a Navy kid, but an Air Force mom and a Marine. We've got the whole service in our family. And I was talking to someone that was in the Navy, and we were talking something about my son being stationed somewhere. And we got an EVP that said squids. And all these people, listen to it and they're like, I think it says squid, but why would somebody talk about a squid? And I said, Navy. They were called squids. My dad was in the Navy. And it was just funny because, you didn't want to tell anyone what you thought it said. But squid is pretty much, it's either squid or it's not. There's not too many words it sounds like. But it was
Darlene,
Darlene
funny.
has a question in the chat, and she says,
yeah,
"Is
Yeah.
there any legit ghost hunting apps for the phone?"
I can't, no. We'll put it that way. Your phone is made to be a phone, right? Our equipment, like I was showing earlier, the EMF meters were made for electricians originally, for and like my thermal camera, I have a thermal camera. That was originally for fire departments and plumbers so they could look through the wall and see heat, and the fire department uses them as well. And so we take that technology and use it. But yeah, the apps, the only thing I do with my phone is I take video with it. And then that way I have video from different sources. And then there's also a voice recorder. So I can record. I could leave my phone in one room and record. I can take my recorder in another room. And then I have my handheld camera, which has microphones and stuff on it, and take that to another room. But yeah, I would say no. There's some fun ones. There was one called Ghost. Oh, wow. This was going way back when this first started, early 2000s. There was not the ghost meter. Oh man, it was like a radar, and it was the funniest thing because it would have a circle and it would just go around and go around, and then all of a sudden, it would pop out a word, and it was just I don't know. We would just sit there and laugh at it because it's like,
Yeah,
really?
it was basically a toy. It wasn't a tool.
Exactly. But no,
Yeah.
we only use, like there is nothing, well, nowadays there are that are specific for ghost hunting, but they all branched out of other things. Like I use a laser level. So if I'm at a hospital that has really long hallways, it's a laser level that I got at Sears Hardware, and it's for doing pictures or tiling. So you put it on the ground and it shoots a red stream, or you can have it this way, or it'll have specks out. And
Yeah.
so what we use it for is if something breaks the barrier, I'm going to see it in the pitch dark. If I see that the red line is broke, something has just walked through that line. So that
Yeah.
is something we borrowed from other technologies, but yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not.
And they've created ghost hunting ones that have an alarm that
Yeah,
sounds when the line is broke,
yeah.
exactly. Yep.
which
So
means pretty much every moth that flies through it. But hey,
exactly. Yes, yes. We have one that was I think it was originally made for people's driveways, and they call it a shadow detector, and that's what it was, is if something breaks that red line. So you
hmm
would put it out, and so that way if someone pulled into your driveway, you'd get like a ding dong sound, like your
hmm
doorbell, to let you know. This was before Ring camera and everything.
yeah, way before.
Old school. Yeah, old school.
Um,
And
Dad
we
used to have
used
one of those on our old driveway at the house when we had a
yes.
business at the
Yep,
house.
that's
And
right. We used it.
I got a story there.
Yeah.
There's a ballpark um, west of the street we lived on, across the tracks, and there was a shooting there,
Mm.
and they were hunting for somebody that ran. And he came up our driveway and set off the alarm. We didn't know. We were like watching a TV show or whatever. We didn't have scanners on or nothing. And anytime that bell rings, you just go answer the back door. And I went to answer the back door. just as I opened the door, he was reaching the back wall of the house, and the door was right there at that corner. And I came out that door, and he went for his gun, and I was, like, like, wait, can I help you? We got a manhunt going on. And I'm like, okay, all the buildings are secure. The fences are unlocked. Feel free to look at whatever you need to. And if you need us, let us know. And he says, how in the hell did you know that I was here? And I pointed and I said, infrared across the driveway. I said,
Right.
Dad had his business here, and that was set up, and it ain't died yet. So we just left it until it gasses out, and you set it off when you walked up the driveway.
Right.
Oh, because it had been a while. It was actually
Right.
pretty shocking that it still worked at that point, because he was like, took him a second
Right.
to realize what I was talking about, because he was, kind of young. But
Right. Barbary. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
it was
That
it
is
was just it was funny. Um,
right.
Timestamp 7. Let's see, it'd be 29 after. Just above Robin's thumb up emoji.
Yes. Yeah. It
Yeah.
That's where
says
Barbary is.
Barbary. Yeah. Do you
And
have
hello.
colleges of spiritualism there?
She said, "Do you have a college of spirit?" Not that I know of. Do we?
Right. Maybe. Like we investigated a month ago in Cicero, near Cicero, Illinois, a spiritualist church where they do use the Ouija, they do seances, they do that. So it's not necessarily like a college, but you can take oh my gosh, parapsychology courses
Hmm.
here in the States. I'm not sure where you're from. But yes, so there is parapsychology. The best way to always learn is like I learned from Bishop James Long. He is the one that started paranormal clergy. A lot of people are familiar with him. He's out of Louisville. Um, he's an
And there
archbishop.
are studies to be had
Right,
that are not a place you want to go.
right.
They're
Yeah,
basically cult related.
exactly.
And they'll do peripherals like that to draw people into their cult. So
Correct.
if that is a direction you want to go, be very careful in what and where you choose. Get references,
Right.
research it. Um, Outside of its ilk, look for people that have gotten out. If you even hear that phrase, don't go there. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
um,
yeah. Run, Forrest,
you're,
run.
yeah, very much so. You're better off to find someone in the spiritual world and find someone you trust
Right,
and get connections and knowledge through them, and other people in their bubble.
right.
Um, you're not going to find that with a solitary, you know, like myself. I do my own research. Um, I don't go to anyone, but I've been doing it for a very long time, you know.
Right.
Um, I
The info
basically
is out
learned.
there. Right. Right.
It
The
is.
information you're probably seeking is out there. You just have to, hopefully, you're in tune enough that you can seek out the information that's good for you, good for what
Hmm.
you're looking for. If it feels fishy, stay away from it. Just go with
Yeah.
your intuition. But yeah,
Yeah. Use your
we're
intuition, use
constantly
your gut,
learning.
take
Right.
what you will and leave the rest behind.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
the majority of what I have learned is via books.
Yes.
Um, Discount newagebooks.com
Right. Oh, nice.
is a
I'll have to
discount
check.
website
I'm going to write that
for
down.
spiritual materials. They have Christian, they have, you know, everything.
Right.
And you can learn about, um, psychic things, paranormal things, spiritual things, divination, which is, the Ouija and the runes and crystal ball and cards and whatever.
Right.
a lot of what I learned. One of the big authors that I read a lot of, and then I, you know, branched out from there,
What's
is
that, Deborah?
Silver Ravenwolf is an
Yes.
author. She has pretty good stuff out there, but again, take what you will, leave the rest behind.
Right.
But she is a high priestess. Yasmin Gale Norn is also another. She does fiction and she does nonfiction.
Right.
She's a little deeper
Hmm.
sometimes than I care for, but
Right.
she does have good information. And if you read her fiction, it is exotic, I'll just say.
Right.
So, you know, keep that in mind if you decide to read her fiction.
Yeah.
It gets interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think. The first book I ever read. Let me go grab it because
Yeah.
it's
Isn't it
Native
amazing?
American, and
Right.
it was gifted to me, and
Right.
that's what set me on my path. Is this
Right.
book?
Isn't it amazing how a book can do that? You know,
Yeah, let me go
it
grab it.
is. Yes.
What
I'll
was
get
that
it
Yeah.
off
that you
That's,
my
gave
shelf here.
Deborah?
oh, that was, I was saying, it's an aura ball. It's my crystal ball, but it's, I leave it here because, as a jewelry seller and love crystals. So I always have quartz crystal or something around me. Plus the nature of being a paranormal investigation. We went into a home that's like on the border of Illinois and Indiana that we had to refer to the diocese because I was threatened that I was going to die because I was an F and B. And this all, I could hear it. I was threatened by this shadow person, and we actually did catch it on film. We caught the shadow person in still picture. We caught him in two pictures. The place, that is the one case that we knew that it wasn't necessarily a demon that was there, but it was not a nice person. And we couldn't, because we're not clergy, our group, we're here and then clergy's up here. We refer to clergy. So we're like the middleman. So we had to refer it, but just with the feelings in there, the threatening, the experiences the family had, yeah, it was crazy. It was just nuts.
There
But
was a
yeah, if
couple.
somebody, sorry, go ahead.
There was a couple of times throughout the night tonight that I felt like a headache,
Mm,
and then it went away, and then
right,
I'd feel it again, and it went away, and then I'd feel it again, and I'm just assuming that it was somebody nearby me
right,
trying to tell me that they were here.
right. Yep. Oh yeah. Funny story. I told this when I was on Danny Mae's show. We were talking paranormal, and I went, because I used to be a smoker. I would constantly have dry mouth, and I used to like gobstoppers. So I was laying in bed watching something, and I got really sleepy, but I had a mouthful of gobstoppers, and I started to fall asleep, and I got a slap across the face in a cold hand, but it was this side, and I was sleeping this way. My husband was over here asleep already, and I was like, what the, because I was falling asleep, and I got the cold hand across the face, and I smelled my mother-in-law's perfume, and I was like, thank you. And my husband's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, your mom's here, she just saved my butt.
She woke me up.
She did, and it was, thank goodness, right? But I fell asleep with a mouthful of gobstoppers. And so, yeah, it was crazy. It was nuts.
I'm writing down
Yeah,
Um,
Bishop Christina's Rake's book is fantastic. She's the one that will be doing our interview. She's also part of the paranormal clergy that I'm part of. We take the cases that nobody else will, because once they hear that there's something nasty, a lot of teams will go in and they'll investigate, and then they have no answers. So they keep people hanging, or they tell them, guess what? It's a demon. Well, you know what? 99.9% of the time, it is not nasty. It is just a jerk. If I'm a jerk in life, I'm going to be a jerk in death, right? So, that's not changing. Your personality is part of your soul. It's just who you are. Yeah, you can change, but most of the time it's just a nasty, nasty human spirit. And so we
mhm.
always treat every spirit as if they were sitting here next to me right this second, as a human, a human spirit, then, and they were here in the flesh, would you take that? It's like, no. So yeah, we always have to assume that. Excuse me. Whew. Yeah, books. I tell you, yeah, she's looking for her books. I'm the same way. I've got stacks and stacks of books. I cannot, it's going to be so funny when I die, right? And my kids have to go through our stuff. They're going to be like, oh my God, my mom is a freak, because I have books on demonology. I have books on ruins. I have books on everything. The Egyptian Book of Life, I study that. I'm constantly wanting to learn, but yeah, it'll be so funny because I'll have sage and I have sweetgrass. And I remember my son, when he went into the military and he had to get, the FBI had to come and interview us because he had really top clearance. He used to work on fighter planes. And so they were coming to do an interview. I put my sage bundles in the freezer because I didn't want him to think that it was something else in the house, because I didn't know when they were coming to do these interviews what they'd be looking at. So I had all this sage in my freezer, and I was like, could you imagine them opening it up and being like, look at those bags?
Now,
Because
do
it
you,
looks like something else.
do you burn the sweetgrass?
I do sage first. Like, if I do a house blessing, we do the sage first to get the nasty out, and then the sweetgrass to keep the joy in, the good in. Sweetgrass, love it. I always have sweetgrass next to my computer too.
Huh.
Yeah, it smells fantastic. I use it in oil form most of the time because most people don't want you burning a big sage stick anymore. So I use either incense or I have sprays that I make. So I think Willow found her book. I thought I heard her.
I wonder if I'm able to grow sweetgrass here
I
in where
don't I don't know. I'm not sure. When you see it, it's looks like the really long not wheatgrass, but that grass that when you touch it, it's kind of sharp. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
talking about? But
yes,
it
like on
grows,
the sides of the road.
yes, and it's super tall. So yeah, I don't know what climate. I'm not sure. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's nuts. Yeah, my books, it's just going to be funny because when the kids, if something happens to me, they're going to be like, wow, your mom was a freak. It'll be funny. And there's some books I'm going to part with. I'm not sure. I have to start thinning some of that out. So I may bring them to auction one of these days and everyone will be like, wow, I should just name it the paranormal auction or something like that. Because I've got some books on some weird stuff. So
Oh, I see. There's a vanilla sweetgrass. Bet you that
oh,
smells.
nice.
Mm.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think we
I love
lost
sweetgrass.
Flo.
We might have. I know she was going to look for a book.
I'm still here. I couldn't
Oh,
reach the book. I've
oh
got
no.
boxes stacked up in front of those bookshelves right now. Um, and I'm looking, trying to find it. Um, I've got the author,
Right.
but yeah, I'm struggling to even find it. So yeah, it's probably
Isn't it
way out of
amazing how
print.
one book just changes our perspective and everything and opens it up and
It
says,
does.
it's like that book found you, right? You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely. Good Lord. Anyway, I have several of the books. Um, the authors are Sun Bear, common spellings, 2 words, and
Right.
Wabum, Wabum,
Wabun. Oh, okay.
Bum, as in Mary.
Yes.
And she has several books, or they do. They are a couple.
Medicine Wheel is a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got several of them. I don't have them all.
Right.
Unfortunately, some of them had become collector prices.
Yeah.
We know how that goes. But I've gotten what I can. And I still look, if I find, and I've read them all.
Right.
But they are a native couple, an indigenous couple. And I don't know, their way of writing is very understandable and compelling. Some books, like any genre, can be dry
Right.
as bone. Others can be quite fascinating. Some of the best came back from the 70s. So yeah, look for vintage, but also respect the modern. Um, you know, it's for me, it's fun to read them. It's fun to research. I love to research. I'm huge on research. So I read books, I take notes. If it's nonfiction, I'm reading it and taking notes. It's just,
Right.
I don't just sit down and randomly read nonfiction just for the hell of it. There's going to be research because I can't not research while I'm reading it.
Right. Yeah. My problem is if I try to go sell a book, people aren't going to want it because I've got it highlighted and I highlight in different colors. I'm one of those people. I highlight in yellow if it's really important. I highlight in pink if it's something that I can bring to my ghost hunting
She color
abilities.
codes her
Or
highlighting, guys.
yes, I do.
I color code
Yes.
my notes, but I cannot deface a book.
Oh, I know.
Um,
I can.
I
I have
was a
no
book
problem.
reseller in the 90s,
Right.
and I managed a bookstore here in town in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
So, yeah, I cannot deface a book. So, yeah, you don't see me highlighting or jotting notes in the spine, any of that. I take
Right.
notes. I have
Right.
a clipboard all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I could never sell my books because people would be like, what is going on here? But yes, especially I have to color code it when something calls to me and I want to research it more. And then I'll highlight it in another color. I did that with all my college nursing books and everything. It was like I couldn't sell them back because I paid that good money for them. I was going to use them, and I still have a lot of them still here. But my anatomy and physiology book, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, some you can let go of, but others, yeah, you hang on to them because they're reference materials. You
Yeah,
know, yeah, there's
that's
nothing wrong with
right.
that.
That's right.
Yes, Jeffrey, I remember that. I remember you telling us, and Carol telling us that you two had met, and that's awesome.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, I love my books. You know, I love my books.
Yeah.
I went through school. I didn't have reading comprehension. I got reading comprehension sorted out when I went to get my GED at the age of
Right.
24. And she spent an hour with me, and then she said, go buy a book. Any book, it don't matter, just go buy a book, read it, and never stop reading. And that's exactly what I've done.
Yes.
You know,
That
that's
is for
exactly
sure.
what I've done. And years later, there was a divorce in the family, and a guy and his son came and stayed with the folks for a few weeks because they were in transition. And during those few weeks was the last few weeks of school. So I drove him 30 minutes each way to his school so he could finish his school year there. And I tutored him at night while
Right.
he had lack of reading comprehension. So I did the same thing with him that was done with me years before and set him on track. And then I took him out and bought a book for him. He got to choose whatever you want, whatever sounds good, whatever interests you, pick a book. And he never stopped reading either.
Right.
He went through construction school at the local tech college. And years later, he stumbled on me and my dad at, you remember the little booth snack bars that used to be in Walmarts?
Yeah. Kind of like
Yeah.
at Kmart too. We had them at Kmart.
Well, our Kmart had done came and went by then. But yeah, he ran into me there because I had taken Dad out there. He liked to walk around Walmart to get exercise. He preferred Walmart to the mall kind of thing, and that was kind of the two options we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stumbled on me. He just, here comes this big strapping dude, just comes up and gives me a big hug, and I'm like, who in the hell are you? You know, and it was him. And he hunted me down and wanted to thank me for what I had done for him. Because basically the gift that was given to me, the gift of reading, I paid forward to him. And it helped set him on his track. He had D- grades when I started tutoring him. When he graduated or finished his sophomore year of high school, he was a B+. And
That's
that
awesome.
was in about 6 weeks.
Right.
And it wasn't all my tutoring so much as he got reading comprehension, so he could read it and then get it. And his education just took off from there, literally, leaps and bounds.
Right.
And you know, and that's awesome. You know, now he's a construction contract worker. He might even have his own business at this point because it's been decades.
Right.
Like 20 years ago or better.
Well, I'm thinking we're going on 2.5 hours.
I gotta get going, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I got to get back to busy too. Good news.
This has been wonderful, and I'd like
anytime.
Anytime. I'd love to do it again. So
yeah.
I do have a quick praise report if you want to hear it.
A what?
Praise or positivity report.
Sure.
I got a phone call yesterday morning from my spine specialist's office, and my pre-approval went through way earlier than anticipated, and they had an opening. My spine ablation to get me back mobile, moving, and able to work on the house is tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Instead of the 20th.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
That's what I've been working on today, is making some meals. So I've got some meals to eat on, and I filled my pill boxes because I know I ain't gonna have a brain for that. You know, during the couple of day window that it's really rough for me after because of the steroid that they put in there with. So I'm just getting stuff done that I thought I had a week to do or better, and no, I have like less than 48 hours kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing. But
that's great. Congratulations.
Get her done tomorrow, and a couple of weeks I'll be feeling way better.
Have a speedy and a quick recovery.
Yes. Yes. Prayers, it helps a
I'm
lot. Yep.
Yes.
yeah. Mine just like a switch flipped and it was done on the
Wow.
right side. So that's the side I'm having done. I cannot tell at this point if the left needs to be done. I don't think so, but we're going to reassess a couple of weeks after the right is done because by
Right.
then I'll be able to read the left and see. Right now, the right is raging so bad that I can't
Exactly.
delineate the left from right at this point. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I had fusion surgery, and I had 3 surgeries before that, all in lumbar spine. And just recently, my back has been horrible. And they'd always ask you, what side is it on? It's like, I couldn't tell you. It just hurts. You know,
mm-hmm,
it's like sciatica. You know, if you have sciatica, you have it.
mm-hmm,
I mean, that's what originally I got hurt, and you know what side it's going down because you're about to kill somebody. It's that bad.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, so now it's like I've been going to physical therapy. I was supposed to go tonight, and it's just they're like, "What side hurts?" Everything, because you're right.
Exactly.
It's hard to describe it. It's
It's
everywhere.
hard to
Yeah,
delineate. It's hard to define areas because
right.
I can't have fusion. I can't have joint replacement. Any foreign matter put in my body, I can't because of
Uh,
my autoimmune. It will
right,
attack fully. It's already happened. I survived it. But yeah, we're not going there again. The
right.
doctors don't want to go there again.
Oh
They
yeah,
know why.
sure.
But it's hard to delineate pains when you have so many that they just all run together like a great big monster, King Kong toothache. Um,
Yeah,
so, but
Well,
anyways, that's the worst one
congratulations.
for me, and that will start getting resolved again tomorrow. So
great. Praise the Lord. That's awesome. That's great.
I am definitely
Yay.
glad because
Well,
yeah, the first time was a long row.
I
Yeah.
thank everyone for coming in. And I am looking forward to having this in. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, Willow, for being up with me and sharing your stories. And I
Thank
hope
you for
more.
having me.
Um, you're welcome. I was kind of hoping you would.
Yeah, it took me a little while. I had to finish some stuff I had on the stove before I could, I was lurking, but I couldn't,
Right.
you know, even
Yeah.
Yeah.
chat at that point because I don't
Yeah.
just have one pot going. I have, all 4 loaded and,
Right. It was funny. I was sitting on the
I'm
deck with my husband after I'd just gotten home, and we're sitting out there, and he's like, and he heard you say, Carol, does somebody want to come on with me? He goes, you going on? And I go, of course I am. How can I not talk about the paranormal or the other world? It's my
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
my dig,
yeah, me
as they
too.
call it.
And a lot of people don't know that about me, but I can't not believe it exists when I've seen
Right.
it my whole life.
You
Yep.
see it, you got to believe it. And for those that haven't experienced it, that's okay too.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And I just
that
shared a
is
few
okay.
stories. There's
Right.
a lot. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
I haven't
know.
done, I've never been, I've never done paranormal investigation. I've
Right.
researched it because, that's
But
what I
Right.
you've
do,
lived
but I've
it.
never done
Yeah.
it. I don't need to. It shows up. I have orbs
Yeah.
here all the time.
Yeah. It's
And they're
very
not
boring
resident to the
anyway.
land. They're not resident to the house. They're not stuck
Right.
to me. They're just
Right.
family and fur family that are here a lot.
Yep.
They waft through on the regular. None stay. They
Right.
just visit. Mom and dad. Mom just wafts in. Depends on where my mind's at, and she wafts in.
Right.
Dad, if there's food on the stove, yeah, he's here. Yeah, he's all about the food. Um,
Thank you, everyone, for coming in. And I
Thank
hope to
you.
see you all again.
Yes. Email me and we'll set something up. We'll have some more conversations.
Definitely. All
Sounds
right.
great. Willow, good luck tomorrow, honey.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yep. Blessings, everybody.